Hello, Rapier here, and this is Wipeout XL for the PS1. This is by far, well, this is a sequel to the original Wipeout, and it's by far probably the best or one of the best games in the entire Wipeout franchise. This game is by all means a way better game than the original Wipeout. The graphics are a lot smoother. They're a lot smoother. They're very sleek. The gameplay is very smooth and sleek. There's rarely ever any slowdown because the original Wipeout was plagued with slowdown, but this game doesn't have any of that. The color palette's a lot brighter. The graphics look a lot nicer. Just everything about this game looks really good. Looks really good. It's really fast-paced too. I'm playing as Auricom right now. What Auricom is in the first game looks completely different in the first game they do in this game. All the ships from the first game look very different in this game. Because in the first game, all the ships kind of looked the same, but it looked like they're all based on the same base. No pun intended. But in this game, they actually tried making each ship look unique. They only left face RB look like it did in the first game, or somewhat like it did. That's the one, Vicer is the one that changed the least. But all the other ones have been changed a lot, and there's some new mechanics added to this game too. You might notice there's now an energy meter in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, so you actually do have energy, which is pretty much health in this game. They added that in this game. Pretty much every Wipeout game after this one has energy. They added health that you can, if it's possible to get eliminated, just like in Twisted Metal. You get shot at by weapons or smashed into walls and then you lose health, and then eventually you get smashed or destroyed so many times, eventually you get killed and then it's game over kind of thing. And this weapon I have right now, this is like a one-shot kill kind of weapon. It's insta-kill. You shoot an enemy with it, regardless of how much health they have. Even if they have their shield up and you get shot by that thing, they're instantly dead. They're just dead like that. Just one shot and they're dead. They're instantly dead. It's really hard to aim though. It's really hard to aim. There's no lock on at all or homing. There's none of that. You really have to get a good shot on them. And some ships are really fast and very weak, and some ships are very strong. Like the one that I played in the first game, AG Systems. They're back in this game. They look completely different. They're kind of slow in this game. They're also the weakest ship in the game too. They actually don't have any merits at all. They're slow and they're weak. There's really no point at all playing as AG Systems in this game. You don't really have to play as any specific ship. Really, just do the whole game with one ship. I'm doing with Auricom right now. They weren't the best in the first Wipeout. They're kind of chunky and slow in the first game, but they're really fast and smooth in this game. I'm playing this game on Rapier mode, which is pretty much the hard mode of the Wipeout series. It is a pretty much a hard mode, and the game kind of has an odd way of regulating difficulty. It makes you play the first two races on Vector, makes you play the next two on Venom, then it makes you play the last two on Rapier, then you unlock this championship mode, like the championship race in the first game. And if you win all that, every race on Rapier, then you unlock these next two tracks that you can play on Phantom mode, which I still haven't done that yet on this emulator. They're on this emulator that I'm using right now. And I haven't done it yet. And this track we're on right now, which is set in Nepal, in the icy Nepal. This level, I believe, was used in Wipeout Free Special Edition, which I didn't know about Wipeout Free Special Edition for the longest time. I actually discovered that one way later. Or very well. That's because it only came out in Europe, and I never lived in Europe, so I only ever known about the Wipeout games that came out in North America. And Wipeout Free Special Edition has a lot of these tracks from the original Wipeout are in Wipeout Free Special Edition. And a lot of them are from Wipeout XL. Did have a strong emphasis, like they knew Wipeout XL was a way better game than the first Wipeout. As Wipeout XL set the standards for the series. It then introduced the whole energy thing. Pretty much every Wipeout game after this one has energy, has eliminations. It has you can get destroyed, and the way the controls work. So that they really use this game as the basis for what all the future Wipeout games. It's a Wipeout game that made Wipeout what it is. It's a major improvement over the first Wipeout, and it's by all means the best game in the series. It is by far the best. Definitely one of the best games in the Wipeout franchise. There's advertising still in this game. There's advertising in this place. Most of them are for fictional products, except for Red Bull. Red Bull actually is the only real product ever advertised in this game. Red Bull wasn't even that big or that well known when this game was made. People didn't even know what it was yet. Improve reaction time with Red Bull. Oh yeah, they want people to drink Red Bull when playing this game, because it would improve your reaction time, because this game does require some pretty, fast reflexes, fast reaction time. But I know this game well, because I've been playing this game for years. I'm very familiar with this game. I played this game tons of times over and over again. I remember playing this game way back in the day, back when I first was introduced to emulation, and I had a Windows 98 PC. My family's computer ran Windows 98. It was an HP Pavilion. I remember it would be, because the hard drive wasn't large enough to fit full ISO images of PS1 games, you actually have to take the actual discs and put them in the actual system to play. I remember playing this game on the emulator and having it crash in the level we're about to go to next in Chile in the South American jungle. This is my favorite level of the game, and I was actually a bit disappointed they didn't include it on Wipeout Pre-Special Edition. I really like Wipeout Pre-Special Edition, but it could have been better if they had this level in it. This is a really good level. It's like the swamp looks there's like the swampy marsh or the thick, flush jungle. It looks really nice and vivid. Even back in the day, this game looked really nice and vivid. And I'm not using any texture smoothing or anything. So there are in some emulators you could use like texture smoothing, make PS1 games look smoother, because PS1 games are known for having very like how do I say it, like very rough textures and very like choppy and blocky visuals and things other than that. But this game, I'm not using any of that at all, and this is exactly how it would have looked like on an original PS1 back in the day, and look how smooth it looks. The game does look really smooth and looks really vivid and really lush and detailed. These are some of the best graphics I've seen in the PS1. Heck, this game actually does look better than a lot of games I've seen in the later days of the PS1. This game could very well pass for being a later PS1 game. Heck, it could even pass for being an early PS2 game, maybe. Seriously, there's some games on the PS2 that I've played that don't look as good as this. This game actually does have really some of the best graphics, and this game really has set the standards for what any good racing game should be. This game came out in the same year as Mario Kart 64, and there was this one show I saw that actually compared this game to Mario Kart 64, simply because they're both racing games, they both involve weapons, they both came out in 1996, and it was also a matter of PS1 versus N64. He's ignoring the fact that this game did get a Sega Saturn release, but no one likes to know about the Sega Saturn version of this game. I'm not even sure if it's any good or not. It might not be as good as this version. Kind of like the original Wipeout, the Sega Saturn was plagued by a bunch of limitations. And so the PS1 was, considered a better system. The PS1 didn't have those limitations the Sega Saturn had. So Wipeout was kind of compromised in the Sega Saturn, but yet supposedly there's some music in the Sega Saturn version that's absent in the PS1 version. The music in this game is really good. It's done by a lot of bands and artists like Cold Storage, Atom Bomb, as Prodigy, as the Chemical Brothers. There's a lot of good music in here. I can't play any of it though because it's copyright, so I have to replace it with different music. But it's still some really good music. It's not as good as the Wipeout 1 soundtrack. Actually, one of the few things that the original Wipeout did better than Wipeout XL is have a better soundtrack. I think Wipeout 1 did have a better soundtrack than Wipeout XL. You can fly for this thing too, which replenishes all your health. It's like a pit stop from Gran Turismo or Daytona USA. When you fly over it, it replenishes your health. It's really fast too. It's really fast, faster than a pit stop in those games, and it goes at really fast because these ships fly really fast. Look at the kilometers per hour. It's a game that's made in the UK, so it uses kilometers per hour, not miles per hour. A lot of Americans I know in Discord seem to using kilometers per hour because it's better. There's that sign that billboard looks like it's written in Braille or something like that. Why would a billboard be written in Braille? They're blind giants walking around here that need to feel the signs or something like that. So I'm about to win this race. It's really easy for me to win because I've played this game so many times before. I'm a master at this game. I know where everything is. I know almost everything there is to know about this game. Supposedly there's a cheat code to get in this game that makes it so you can't pick up any weapons or use any weapons at all, but then it puts a machine gun on your ship so you can easily gun down some enemies. And actually the special weapon that Visar has in Wipeout 64 that actually works just like that, actually. Wonder if they got the idea from that, because Wipeout 64 is an N64 Wipeout game that came out after this one, and it's highly based around this game. It uses the same game engine as this, or a very similar game engine at least. It uses a lot of the same kind of graphics, a lot of the same stuff. It's just like Wipeout XL, but for N64, and has different levels, and some other slight, subtle differences, like some minor differences that most people wouldn't care about. But it's on the N64. And that was the last time a Wipeout game came out on a non-PlayStation system. This is also the last Wipeout game to get releases. That was on the PS1, the first two Wipeouts. It's the last of those ones that came out on the PS1. and was not a PS1 exclusive, because it also came out on the Saturn and the PC. It came out for Windows 95 as well. But then after that, there was Wipeout 64, and then after Wipeout 64, Psygnosis got bought out by Sony. So now pretty much all Wipeout games only come out on PlayStation systems. It's like PlayStation's flagship racing series, like futuristic racing series that they try to use to compete with other racing games on other systems. And the people who made these games also made another game for the Xbox called Quantum Redshift. I like to think Quantum Redshift was the true Wipeout 4. Quantum Redshift, I mean, Wipeout 4, which is Wipeout Fusion, wasn't the best Wipeout game. It did have a lot of problems, and most of them are like stuff from the first stuff, because it's like highly based around the first Wipeout. It's like they studied the original Wipeout and completely ignored Wipeout XL and Wipeout 3. And Quantum Redshift seems more like what Wipeout XL is, or Wipeout XL was using Quantum Redshift, and Quantum Redshift is by all means a better game than Wipeout Fusion. It's an Xbox exclusive, but it is really good. I like to think it's the true Wipeout 4, kind of like how the people made Twisted Metals 1 and 2, tried to make a game to get back at their own franchise that was taken from them by Sony. So instead they made Rogue Trip Vacation 2012, and apparently they also made some futuristic skateboard game or some futuristic hoverboard game that was kind of like Jet Moto, but it was on with hoverboards, like flying hoverboard kind of things. I didn't even know that game existed before until today when I was watching Fiendly play for Jet Moto. I've been wanting to play for Jet Moto for some time now. Jet Moto is a really good game. It's one of my favorite racing games on the PS1. It's hard as hell, but it is really good. It has good music, has good gameplay, and it's filled with BS moments. But it's like so unrealistic too. I think if you're riding a jet ski, it could go for so many different obstacles. Like, it very well is much like Wipeout. It is very similar to Wipeout. It's almost like Wipeout, but it doesn't have any weapons in it or stuff like that. It's a lot more challenging too. It is the hardest racing game on the PS1. At least out of all the PS1 games that I've played, it's probably by far the hardest one. I don't know what these buildings are on the side. I think they're like hotels or things like that. And the sky seems to be orange in this level. Is the sky in Germany always orange? I don't know. Maybe it's just like that from pollution or something like that. The first Wipeout was supposed to be like a post-apocalyptic dystopian world, and this game is like further into the future. Probably pollution took over the world to a point where if you go outside for fresh air, you'll be needing Medicare afterwards because of how horribly polluted the world has gotten. And what's cool about this game too is that you don't have to actually enter in your name each and every time. You actually could set up a macro kind of thing in the game, so it could just automatically fill in your name. So I don't have to keep typing in Ray, but I keep typing in Ray each and every time. But everyone should know my name, Ray. I'm Ray Phoenix. Who else would I be? Everyone needs to know that Ray Phoenix is the one that played this game and got all those high scores. By high scores, I mean fast times. That kind of is how scores accumulate in a game like this. So now we're going to France. We're going to race under the best conditions ever, where it's wet and rainy outside. It's dark outside, and we have the intimidating city lights looking down on us. I also want to say too that Red Bull energy drink is not the only time Psygnosis ever promoted that drink. It was also referenced in a game called Formula 1, which is also made by Psygnosis in the same year as this game. It was also made by Psygnosis in the same year as this game, and it was on the green PlayStation Pix demo disc from 1996, which I still have that demo disc to this very day. I actually made a video of that Formula 1 demo many years back in 2018, when I still did commentary in a way that sounds like I was trying to be a sportscaster or something like that for a race. There already is a sportscaster in Wipeout. He's that computer voice that says everything. He still warns you about things, just like in the first Wipeout, but it's a different voice this time around. It's always a computerized voice, and it's a different voice in each and every Wipeout game. There are no reoccurring narrator voices, or DJ voices, or announcer voices, or whatever it is you want to call them. It's always different in each and every Wipeout game, and it's different in this game too. And there's always a lot of, this game also introduced a thing called perfect runs, where if you complete a whole level without hitting a single wall, or without getting hit by any weapon fire or anything like that, you get what's called a perfect run. And I don't know if it accumulates your score or anything like that, kind of like eliminations, and you eliminate people. It actually does keep track of your eliminations, and I think it keeps track of perfect runs too, but I don't think it goes to anything, at least not that I know of. If it's like the game says perfect run, I rarely ever get perfect runs in this game. So you're constantly getting bombarded with weapons fire, constantly hitting walls, running into walls, and smashing on things. Makes a sound, like a iconic sound. It all sounds like it could be like a sound effect from a kung fu movie or something like that. Boom, 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 boom. You know, it's almost sounds something like that, almost like getting hit off the side of a wall or something like that. This part was all I thought was really cool. It's like you're flying through the mouth of something, almost. I can see that train flying off in the background, that hover train, that futuristic train. Looks like that hover train from Twisted Metal 4 almost in the Neon City. This level really does look like something out of Blade Runner, out of some futuristic city. I wonder if the political world in 2097 is better than it was in 2052. Have things improved, or maybe they've gotten worse to a point where it's a whole society that's entirely based on racing, this kind of racing. I think it's the only thing they live for. It's the only form of entertainment they have. To them, entertainment only means one thing: watching Wipeout, because to them, Wipeout's the only form of entertainment that they're aware of. They don't know of anything else other than Wipeout. They always live for Wipeout, and this whole existence only exists when I put the game into my PS1 and play the game. Yeah. You can also unlock a ship in this game too called Piranha. It's a new ship that debuted in this game. It's in all the sequels pretty much. It's actually not that great in this game. It's actually kind of large. Sure, it's fast, but it is kind of strong, but it doesn't have any weapons. It's not possible to pick up weapons, so it's kind of useless against weapons, but yet other ships can attack it as well too, so it's actually not that great of a ship in this game. And yet it's branded as being like a novelty ship, like something you have to unlock in the game. Like something you actually have to unlock from the game, and yeah, it actually kind of sucks, actually, but they got better in the sequels. It's actually one of the few ships you could start off with in Wipeout 3, the next game in the series, and it's a lot better in Wipeout 3 than it is in this game. I really love the way the menu design look in this game. It's all high-tech, it's like a cool energy blue, like a very energizing blue kind of thing, but Wipeout 3, they completely forgot about that. And they made it all bland and gray and dull and dark kind of thing. Wipeout 3 actually does have a very depressing color scheme, which actually contradicts this game's color scheme. This game is very bright, very eye-candy bright. But Wipeout 3 is the opposite. It's all gray and industrial. It's almost like they're trying to go back to what the original Wipeout was, even more gray. And apparently this level is set at 3 o'clock. It's always 3 o'clock on that clock up there. But it seems to be dark around here, and it's probably 3 o'clock in the morning maybe is when we're racing, because these racers, they probably race 24/7. They race whenever they want to race, regardless of what time it's at. Whether it's at 3 a.m. or noon or whenever. They race whenever. Or maybe the sky is just that badly just like that. It even has like a red ring around. It's probably just that like that from all the pollution that comes across and all the stuff that goes on in the future. So yeah, this game really is like a good, this game really is like a good example of what Psygnosis was capable of making. It's one of the best, this is like among their best games. Psygnosis did make some other pretty good games too. I forget what it was called, but it's some sort of like StarCraft game where you could like fly some ship in some dark place or something like that. I forget what it was called exactly. I also know they made Lemmings back in the early 90s. I remember seeing people play Lemmings. I think Arcanine F50 had Lemmings on one of his Mac computers that he had in his garage that just sits there and collects dust most of the time because it's kind of a useless computer. Because their Mac computers are always kind of useless for gaming. Some people learned the hard way that Mac computers are never good at gaming. I never owned a Mac computer. I never owned any Apple products actually, and I'm actually quite proud of that. I'm proud of the fact that I've never owned an Apple product once in my life. A proud anti-Apple user. Because they might sign me up into a contract that might keep me, that might screw me over. Like there's an episode of Jason and Mason like that where they parody the Apple company, and they screw Jason into signing their contract. And oh, look at that, I just destroyed a ship right there. I just destroyed a ship right there. 1 shot, 1 kill. He had a shield on, but that doesn't matter. 1 shot, 1 kill. Yeah, so Jason has to sign his life over to this orange company. It's an orange and not an apple. And so he could get all their products and services. But then he has to become a slave to the company. It's all because he was pressured into doing this by evil mall cops. Evil cops at the mall that were pressuring him into doing this. and the forces of evil behind the orange company. Mall cops. You know people like making fun of mall cops a lot. There's like Paul Blart. There's like Paul Blart that runs around with his fat body and you could crush everyone. I wonder how Paul Blart would do in a game like this. I bet if Paul Blart got into one of these ships, it wouldn't be a hover ship anymore. It would just fall on the ground. It would just keep driving on down the ground, leaving sparks of metal go flying off the ship because it's just that heavy that he just weighs it down. Yeah, that'd be funny. They should make a game like this, like a parody of Wipeout. A game doesn't take itself seriously, where they add so many funny characters and funny stuff into it, kind of like what Twisted Metal 4 was, or Road Trip Vacation 2012. It's a downright parody kind of game. I actually would love to see something like that. They actually should parody this game. I think that would work really good. Yes, this is a cool Wipeout for XL. This is definitely one of the best games on the PS1. This is Ray Phoenix signing out.